Longmeadow split from Springfield in 1703, and then we split from Longmeadow in 1894. We were the East Village, and Longmeadow was the West Village, or the street. But they called us the Wilderness because we had a lot of woods and not many settled areas along the way from the west to east side. The roads were not always in good condition, and it was dark, especially in the evenings when meetings would take place. They even had to cross through the desert, which was the sandy part of Converse Street area in Longmeadow.
We had to split because of taxes, disagreements, and quarries. We had 30 years of disagreements. We paid for 1/3 of the taxes, but had 2/3 of the population. We were farmers, and they were businessmen. Farmers have to pay less taxes than businessmen. Then the quarries started up, and we started to make a lot more money. There were far more quarry workers than farmers, and it made us rich. People on the west side did not like that. They wanted the taxes to be divided fairly.
We tried and tried to split for many years. Finally, on Monday, February 15th, 1894, we were able to split. It took so long because we had to be approved by the governor. Many former governors had declined the request over the years.
In 50 years, only one marriage happened between the towns, so that showed that we didn't want to be joined together any longer and that we had very little interaction with another. To this day, we are still rivals, especially at sporting events. However, very few people understand why and have no idea that it goes back to the disagreements that occurred over 125 years ago.
It is important to preserve historical homes because they have good history and are very interesting and precious. There might be tools left inside of the historical homes. We need to know the history of our town, and it helps us have a link to our past. But historical homes are also very interesting and quite extraordinary.
To be on the National Register, the house has to be a reconstructed building and the only one from its time. To be a property that has design, age, tradition, or symbolic value. Also, removed from its original home and has history on it. One of the other reasons is the birthplace of a historical figure or a property with significance within the past 50 years. A religious property or a cemetery with historic events.
191 Pease Road is where the Swetland Pease house was built. It was built in 1793. It has been standing for 226 years. It is one of the small number of surviving 18th century houses in the town. It is one of the best preserved. It's listed on the National Register of Historical Places in 1980, standing for 124 years.
Here are some of the houses in town that are historical and are still standing. Some have been preserved and some have been completely renovated inside.
The house on 272 Kibbe Road was built in 1895 and has been standing for 124 years. The house on 22 Porter Road was built in 1805 and has been standing for 214 years.
This is 164 Parker Street. It was built in about 1820.
The house on 232 Prospect Street was built in 1792. It has been standing for 227 years.
201 Chestnut Street is the oldest house in East Longmeadow. It has been standing for 299 years. 222 Porter Road was built in the 1700s and is almost 300 years old.
A long time ago, during the last ice age, glaciers bulldozed their way down the valley, and when the glaciers melted, they left a large lake, and it also had left behind gravel, clay, and stone, which got pressed together in layers as sedimentary stone. Over millions of years, the stone was hardened into brownstone and redstone. In the 1800s, this stone was discovered beneath East Longmeadow. In East Longmeadow, we are known for many things, like the large amount of quarries, and we used to mine this valuable rock. Back in the 1800s and the early 1900s, quarrying was a big thing.
There used to be a lot of people quarrying for stone, but we do not quarry anymore. There is a statue that represents and pays tribute to the quarry workers in town, and it is on School Street. The most famous rocks we quarried were redstone and brownstone. When the quarry workers found the stone, the quarries they sold it or it was made into buildings. The quarry workers lived in tenement houses. During dinner break, they usually ate meat, cheese, 1 donut, 1 slice of cake, 2 cookies, 2 pieces of pie, and 2 cups of tea or coffee because they were working all day. Quarrying was very hard work. It involved lifting heavy iron tools repeatedly and lifting massive chunks of stone.
People would carve the rocks and use derricks to lift them up and cut them using a variety of animals, such as horses, oxen, and oxen pulled the stones on wagons to the railroad. The rock was sent on trains around the country, and the job was very dangerous, and the workers could either be blown up by dynamite, crushed by falling rocks, or they would die from the stonecutter's consumption. The stonecutter's consumption was when the stonecutter's lungs would get filled up with rock dust over time, and they usually died from it by the age of 30.
As quarrying became more extensive, Canadians from Brunswick and Nova Scotia came for stone cutting season, so they could have jobs and help support their families.
Many people used to swim in the quarries after they shut it down. But some people drown in the quarries. The quarries were hundreds of feet deep and are only safe for expert swimmers or people wearing life jackets. Redstone Quarry behind Elm Street was once a popular swimming hole in the 1950s and 1960s. It even had a lifeguard.
Our town is in the Ripley's, believe it or not, for the only rotary in the world that has a 7-way intersection. If you are an out-of-towner, this rotary can be totally overwhelming. It consists of Summers, Prospect, North Main, Shaker, Porter, and Maple Streets. According to land records, the rotary land was given to the town in 1864 by Captain Ethan Taylor. It used to be all dirt and was originally triangular in shape. As more people and traffic went through the town, it grew to be a 7-street intersection. There have been many attempts to change it, although none have been successful. This year they changed the Shaker Maple Crossway. They narrowed it from the lanes to one, probably due to many accidents that occurred there. Many roads in the town are given names after famous residents. Some roads are also named after major buildings or routes. For example, School Street was named because it was the road that led to the school. Hampden Road was named in 1894 because it ran the length of the border with the town of Hampden. Hampden Road used to be an old Indian trail that settlers began to travel. Over time it worn down and the Indians left. It became an official road.
Sanford and Lula Nooney of Hampden Road named Sanford Street and the area of land they owned in honor of their son Sanford Jr. The street Kenneth London was named after the first East Longmeadow soldier killed in action in World War II. In 1946, when Mr. and Mrs. Helmer Johnson bought a piece of land to build their home, they chose an area near of a natural spring which feeds on the Pacusic Brook, and the Pacusic Brook was a major Indian hunting ground. The natives fished there all the time and followed the stream. Many Indian artifacts could probably be found there because they left many things behind when they moved on to new territories.
There have been many schools in the town over the year, and some have been demolished and some are still standing. The following schools are either demolished or no longer used as a school. Town Hall was originally a school and was built in 1886. Pleasant View School was built on North Main Street. It closed in 1969. Center School was built in 1890 and was demolished in February of 1969. The Baptism Village School was located on Meadowbrook Road. It closed in 1930 and has since been demolished as well. The high school in East Longmeadow serves 861 students. The address of the high school in East Longmeadow is 180 Maple Street, East Longmeadow, Mass. 01028. The high school in East Longmeadow was built on September 7, 1960, and opened in 1961. In the 1950s, people predicted that the town would need a high school. The high school in East Longmeadow was built because of November 25, 1957, prior to the special town meeting on December 5th. Dr. T. Joseph McCock, superintendent of Springfield School, informed the East Longmeadow School Committee that time was rapidly running out of space for Springfield to be able to accept students from East Longmeadow any longer. He said that the town had to build a school for East Longmeadow students. Up until this time, students from East Longmeadow were bused into Springfield to attend Classical High School off of State Street in Springfield. East Longmeadow High School was built in 1960. The high school in East Longmeadow opens at 7:25 and closes at 1:45.
Birchland Park Junior High School shared the same land on the area of Hammered Hill. One was built as the other was demolished. The old Birchland Park was built in 1955 and was needed to accommodate the growing town population. It was originally designed to become both a junior high and a high school. However, the town quickly realized it could only accommodate the middle school level. There was still not enough space for the high school's pupils. The newest Birchland Park was built because the old school had a lot of issues and it didn't make sense to spend the money to fix it. They demolished the building in 1997. The address of Birchland Park is 55 Hammered Hill, East Longmeadow, Mass. 01028. Birchland Park opens at 7:30 and closes at 2 o'clock. Meadowbrook is another elementary school in town, and it holds grades pre-K through 2. The address of Meadowbrook is 607 Parker Street, East Longmeadow, Mass. Meadowbrook was opened in February 24, 1969.
Mountain View Elementary School serves 303 students. The address of Mountain View Elementary School is 77 Hamden Road, East Longmeadow. MA Mountain View School was built in 1960. and opened in 1961. Although many different plans were considered, the final one-story building with 20 classrooms on double-sided corridors was considered to be the most efficient. Mountain View School was designed with a cost efficiency. Mountain View was opened at 8 o'clock and closes at 2:35. Mapleshade is a sister school for Mountain View, and it houses the other 3 to 5 students in our town. The address for Mapleshade School is 175 Mapleshade Ave, East Longmeadow, MA 01028. Mapleshade was built in 1954.
In 1886, local redstone was used in building Town Hall in the center of town. Town Hall was originally used as a schoolhouse, and materials were donated to the town by the Norcross brothers, who owned many of the large quarries in town. The stone totaled around $8,000, which is a lot of money back then.
They wanted to help the local children and provide them with a better school, as well as give the town a location to hold meetings as needed. Today, a 5-foot replica of the town seal carved into redstone stands in front of this edifice as tribute to the industry which made East Longmeadow famous. The railroad is another landmark here is town. A century ago, the railroad was working and had tracks that trains used, mostly to ship large amounts of stone around the country. We were one of the first railroad lines established in New England, and we helped pave the way for the railroad system we use around the country today.
During the years from 1875 to 1900, when quarrying was at the highest point, as many as 17 carloads of stone would leave on one single train. Primarily because the importance of the quarries, the Connecticut Central Railroad line was extended from Hartford to Springfield through East Longmeadow in 1876. By 1994, much of the railroad track has been dismantled, and the road bed lay unused until we recently turned it into a rail trail, walking and bike path.
East Longmeadow is not just a sleepy little town. There are many news stories and events that occur here. You just need to know where to look. For example, a local man named Michael Francor walked on foot from Mexico to Canada to raise awareness for mental health. That's over 2,251 miles. The world's famous Play-Doh is made here at our own Cartumandi plant. There was a shortage of the popular toy years ago, so they boost production here in town, and now East Longmeadow supplies most of the nation's Play-Doh. Another newsworthy story is a former Mountain View alumni, Victoria Aveyard, has become a New York Times best-selling author for her Red Queen series at just age 26.
Another business is Fazio's. The owner is Aldo Fazio, born in San Michael, a Provincia di Catanzaro, Italy. Antonio and Ilda Fazio came to America with nothing but family. After he parented 5 boys, he opened a small pizza shop. From there, Fazio's was born. Since 1980, Fazio has relied on strong values and hard work to create a successful family-run business. The most popular dish is chicken parm. They have been in business for 39 years and are still going strong.
Stellato and Son Landscaping Inc. started out on 10 John Street, East Longmeadow, MA. Stellato and Son Landscaping Inc. is a privately held company in East Longmeadow and is a single-location business. It is categorized under landscaping services. The records show it was established in 2008 and incorporated in Massachusetts. Stellato and Son Landscaping can trim bushes in the summer. In winter they can plow, shovel, and saw. In fall they can rake leaves. Now, here's the last business. The Historical Commission is located on Maple Street. It is housed in a house that is said to be 150 to 200 years old. It was moved from its original position, where Rockies is today, on flatbed trucks. The house used to belong to the last Civil War veteran who served in the Civil War as a drummer boy. His name was George W. Mazur. The purpose of the commission is to preserve, protect, and promote. They advise on historical preservation issues and recommend what places need to be saved and cared for in the town. They also interact with the community to help citizens learn about our rich East Longmeadow history. Right now, they are trying desperately to save Very the historical East Longmeadow train station. Let's hope they succeed.
There are many businesses in the town of East Longmeadow. One business in town is Perrin's Automotive. The owner is Brian Perron. Perrin's Automotive's attention to customers, service, and quality has made it an industry leader. At their facility, the customer always comes first, and they constantly strive to exceed your expectations. Perrin's Automotive started 10 years ago in the Rotary. Now it is on 197 Shaker Road.
The police department was established in 1922 by the people to provide them a high level of safety, security, and service. The first police chief was Amy L.J. Lentender. Originally, the town had a constable, which is another name for a police officer back in the day. A constable is an official who helps keep town peace. The first constable used to be stationed in the Rotary and would spend his time monitoring the Rotary and the people who would travel through it. I was fortunate enough to interview the current East Longmeadow Police Chief, Mr. D'Alessio. I asked him a bunch of questions. Here are some of the response. When asked about the Rotary and crashes that have happened, he said there has been about 80 crashes that have been reported to the police. Most of them are fender benders and people can just back out of. When asked about the canine unit, he said the town of East Longmeadow was thinking about getting a canine service, but because of the expenses for a canine officer are so high, including the food, equipment, and training, they decided not to do it this time. I asked him about the jail cells that are located in the police department, and he said the town of East Longmeadow does not keep people in jail cells for more than a night. If they are here longer than a night, then the officers bring them to court located in Springfield. Chief D'Alessio said that we currently have 23 officers in town. There are 16 patrolmen, 6 sergeants, and 1 chief. I learned that police work is not bam-bam gunfights. It's more about helping people and stay safe and caring for the community. Why do police officers wear their badges?
Right, so that the badge allows them to be distinguished from another person that might be on the street. So way back in the day when you had actual sheriffs in the Wild Wild West days, they all had a badge or a marshal or something. It was a way to distinguish one person from another. And it wasn't necessarily the uniform at the time, but it was the badge you carried. the badge that someone gave you the power to do things, and it separated you, made you stand out from an average citizen in the community.
Thanks.
The town's first fire engine was man-powered and pulled to the scene of a fire by horses, with Dalmatian acting as guide dogs for the horses. Early fire departments in the U.S. used to be referred as fire brigade. The first official fire department in town was built in 1923. Another thing is they used to have in the early days was an electric bell system. Every firefighter had a bell system in their house. So when there was a fire, the bell would go off and they knew when to respond to the fire department. Today we use radios and pagers to communicate about fires. Currently on the East Longmeadow Fire Department there are 18 men and 1 woman. In the 80s, the people used to ride on the outside of the fire engine on a platform. Now they are seated securely inside when be transported to a fire. The biggest fire in town has ever seen was at Bluebird Estate in September 2007. I was fortunate enough to interview firefighter Ben Cody. He was a helper to take out that fire and was a part of the investigation into the record-setting fire. Luckily, it was during construction, so no one was inside at the time. It was determined that someone put gasoline around the building and set it on fire with a match. It was millions of dollars damages. Sometimes when fires are too big to fight, they will call in mutual aid from surrounding town departments. Sometimes Springfield and Hampden respond to help us. One time we went to Somers, Connecticut as mutual aid for a massive mill fire on June 2nd, 2012. It was a historic fire that all started from a poorly disappointed cigarette butt.
So we have engine 2, which is a 94, was purchased in 94. We have engine 4, which was purchased in 2001. We have engine 3, and that was purchased in, all set there? Okay, and that was purchased about 4 years back. And then the ladder truck is our newest truck. We got that in July, along with our ambulance.